Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Tonight is November 17th, 2018, and it's Saturday Night Silver with Smaulgld. Welcome everyone. And tonight's topic is, why didn't silver make the final cut as a strategic metal? Very important topic. We're going to cover that. The U.S. Department of Interior listed 35 strategic metals as essential to the United States, and it put out to comment its initial list, and people commented, and some people I know wrote in and said, how about silver? And it didn't make the final cut. So we're going to go through why silver didn't make that final cut. But first, let's take a look at what's happening in the markets. In the markets, well, we don't have a gold and silver market on the weekend, but we do have a crypto market. Cryptos never sleep. Crypto's somewhat rebounding from their horrific Thursday and Friday. Bitcoin up slightly at 55.13. Bitcoin Cash really got smashed down. At one point, it was over $620 a week ago. It's now $345. Ethereum at 172, flat over the last 24 hours. Litecoin pretty much flat at 41.72, and Ethereum Classic down about 0.4% at 734. Let's take a look at some of the things and charts that we got for you tonight on Saturday Night Silver. Let's see what we got. Well, first, we have to cover, we have received, first we had Q My Mom the other day. We received this, and this particular Q My Mom message said, well, no, this is the new one. Hold on, let me get you the first one we got, because there's a bit of confusion now between Q My Mom and Q A Mom, and that's making it even more difficult now to decipher these messages. And I think it's very important, before we move forward, that we make sure we understand what's happening with Q A Mom and Q My Mom. So the other day we managed to decipher this message from Q My Mom, and it was pretty easy. It said, this was from 11/14 from Q My Mom. It said, Macy's Donald's is corrupt and used as a cash register. Topic is key. Logical thinking by mugs. Number one, attacked by fake news. R equals D. Game changer. Congratulations, Anons. So it wasn't that hard to figure that one out. That was Q My Mom telling us to buy mugs, and we know what mugs they mean by that. That's Smaulgld mugs. But then I got this one on the boards. This one says it's from Q A Mom. Now, I don't know if this is a copycat Q or it's the same person, but here's what this message says. Now, this one's a little more difficult. Let's see if we can figure this one out together. 11/17/18, and the ID number is one past the one we just looked at. So I don't know if he's following on Q My Mom or if Q A Mom is a different person. But they seem to be both patriots. And here's what it says. Weather is everything. Water finds its own level. History rhymes. Forecast hot and humid. Warren Beatty. Mr. and well, there you go. Another conspiracy theory. We're talking about Q, and they do not want us to have this conversation, it sounds like. This happens a lot, but we were trying to decipher this latest Q Anon. No, this is Q A Mom, and we're wondering whether Q, a mom, is the same person as Q, my mom, in that last message that we looked at. But this message is a little more cryptic, and it says, weather is everything. Water finds its own level. History rhymes. Forecast hot and humid. Warren Beatty, Mr. and Mrs. are not genders. So weather is everything, and Q likes to tell us what's either key or everything. So it's about weather. And then it says, water finds its own level. History rhymes, so we're looking for some type of a rhyme. And then forecast hot and humid, I guess that's the weather. Warren Beatty, Mr. and Mrs. are not genders. Now I was thinking, who is Warren Beatty and what movies has he been in? And Warren Beatty, I think the famous movie I think of him is Bugsy. Okay, so history rhymes, forecast hot and humid. What kind of weather is hot and humid? It's another name for hot and humid. Mr. and Mrs., the M's are underlined, are not genders. Warren Beatty, Bugsy, the weather is hot and humid. Mr. and Mrs. underlined are not gendered. Warren Beatty, Bugsy, weather, hot and humid. Muggsy, that's what it is. So Q, a mom, is telling us Muggsy, and that must mean to buy Smaulgld mugs. All right. Well, I'm glad we got through that one. So I think now it's time for us to get to our story of the evening. Uh-oh. We got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent,
Smaulgld. This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's moronic.
Right. Well, it's shocking. Silver left off the final list of strategic metals. Now, how did that happen? Because we know silver is rarer than gold. Silver is the most useful metal on the planet. We could not live our lives without silver. Now, yes, indeed, silver is the most conductive metal. It is the most reflective metal. It is a beautiful metal, and it is somewhat rare. It is a precious metal, and it does have indeed uses in the green energy movement for solar panels. It's got usage and necessary for production of electronics and certain other types of industrial uses. So silver just is definitely useful. However, back in earlier this year, we had looked at the Interior, Department of the Interior. They were seeking public comment on a draft list of 35 minerals deemed to be critical to U.S. national security and the economy. And that was back in February, and we covered this story. And I reported, and I was a little surprised to see that silver wasn't there. They listed aluminum, antimony, arsenic, barite, bismuth, cesium, chromium, cobalt. I'll publish the list for you. Lithium, obviously. Now, when you think about lithium and cobalt, those are obvious. They're very rare. They're not made in the United States. So they're not available in the United States, and they're not refined in the United States. And if you need them for certain batteries or so on, you could see why they would be on the list. Now, the platinum group metals were listed. They say they're used for catalytic converters. They had potash on there. They had the rare earth elements for sure. I mean, China basically has most of those. So these are metals that are definitely required, and we don't have them. Scandium, rhenium, tin, titanium, tungsten. You know, you always need tungsten to make fake gold bars, uranium. So they listed them, and silver was not on there. And I know that I had spoken with the Salivate Metal, and he did a video on this, and he actually urged his listeners to send in to the U.S. Department of Interior on the public comment and ask, how come we don't have the silver listed as a strategic metal? And there was an area or time period of public comment where you could fill out your request and people put in the normal reasons why it should be included. And that included its use in machinery, weaponry. I mean, there's a lot of uses for silver. You would think that the military would also want to make sure that it had the silver on hand, and it would indeed be on reflection or on the common period be included in the final list. Well, they came out with the final list a few months later and again was not on the list. And he said, well, wait a minute. Well, the report says that these are metals that are used in oftentimes many sectors of the economy. They specifically called out aluminum, makes sense, platinum for catalytic agents, rare earths for batteries and electronics, protective coatings, tin. They list titanium, and they called out them, and they gave the full list of 35 commodities, but silver was not listed on it. So I was wondering, why wouldn't silver be listed? I mean, I do mock the idea that silver is the only metal on earth that's ever worth buying and ever worth talking about. But it is indeed a valuable and a precious metal, and it is important in industry. In fact, it's obviously now more important in industry, as we saw last night. The bulk of the demand for silver is in industry, and America has industry. And if you don't have silver, well, then you might not be able to have certain industries. Okay, so I started thinking about it, and I did a little research, and let me tell you what I came up with. So here's what they said, and I hope I don't get cut off again. Well, I'm not talking about Q anymore, Q a mom or Q my mom, so maybe I won't. But here's what they said. This is in the final report. There are many minerals not included on their draft critical minerals list that are still of substantial importance to the U.S. And then they said these minerals are not considered critical in the conventional sense because the U.S. largely meets its needs through domestic mining and processing. Thus, a substantial supply disruption is considered unlikely. Industrial metals, for example, are the materials that form the physical basis for much of our nation's infrastructure. These include materials for making cement. They need limestone, clay, shale aggregates, materials such as iron and steel mesh, wire grids to reinforce concrete structures, materials to place infrastructure in, and so on. So they're basically saying that it sounds like that silver isn't on the list not because it's not strategic, but because they have enough of it, or they have access to it. And I was thinking that through, and I said, well, we know that the number one silver mining country in the world is south of the border, Mexico. They are clearly the number one leader, and Peru, I think, is the second. Well, I was thinking you can't count on, and Canada produces a fair amount. I was thinking you really just can't count on Mexico always providing you with silver, but that made somewhat a mitigating factor that at least Mexico isn't considered hostile, and also the United States, I guess, suppose if it wanted to, could just go in there and take over Mexico if it needed silver. But I don't think that's what they were thinking, why they thought that they didn't have to list it as a strategic metal. So I thought a bit more. What else could be the reason? Well, there's really two reasons. Now, here's two reasons for silver to not be listed on that list. So the first one is, do we have sufficient mining of silver? And the second one is, are there sufficient stockpiles in the country that if we needed silver? Now, the United States used to have a strategic stockpile of silver, billions of ounces. They don't have that anymore. That's been long sold off. So it's not like the United States says, look, we don't have to worry about silver because we got a pile of it. They admit they don't. It's not like with gold where they say they have 8,133.5 tons. They claim they have that. And gold isn't strategic in that sense. And also, if they claim they have it, then they have it. At least according to the way they're running their operation. So, if they don't have strategic piles, where are they going to get the silver? Well, let's take a look. A couple of things. First of all, we know that the Comex has 294 million ounces. And you say, well, okay, but how does that do the United States any good? Well, doesn't belong to the United States, but that number that you're looking at on the screen, those 294.22 million ounces, belongs to, we're not quite sure whom it belongs to, but it's in vaults all located in the United States. It's at the Brinks, which has about 51 million ounces, is the Delaware Depository in Wilmington, Delaware. HSBC Bank has a vault, a silver Comex vault in New York. JPMorgan Chase has the famous One Chase Manhattan Plaza New York vault. Then you got Malka Emmett in New York. You've got Manfred, Tordella, and Brooks, their vault. You got Scotia Makata's vault. So you have, and then you have Coins and Things, C&T Depository in Massachusetts. So you have identified 294.22 million ounces that are in the United States. We say, well, that isn't the United States. Well, yes and no. We do know that in national emergencies, and we've seen this happen in the past, and the presidents can do it by executive order, they can basically take whatever asset they need if they have to have. And if it's in the United States, well, then it's, in a sense, owned by the U.S. We know that presidents have tried to nationalize entire industries, not just confiscate. We know that Roosevelt confiscated the entire nation's gold supply. So if anything, if the United States had no other silver other than what's in the Comex depositories, they could, if they needed to, commandeer that silver, all of it, some of it, or whatever they happen to need for purposes of whatever national interest that it would need. But really, and we're going to go to the mining in the United States. Before we do that, I know you're interested in seeing the breakdown of that silver. So we're going to look at the Brinks vault. This is what I'm keeping track of. As I mentioned, 51 million ounces, 51.7 million ounces in the Brinks vault, and that's up from 20 million ounces just back in 2016. This is a separate topic, separate issue. Whose silver is this? Why is this vault exploding, bursting at the seams? And again, why are there 294 million ounces of silver at the Comex vault in general? And a good portion of that also is our JPMorgan vault. And again, that's at 152.332 million ounces. So again, lots of silver in the United States, lots of silver under the control of entities that are located in the U.S. where their vaults are located. And I'll show you one other picture here. These charts, by the way, are from Nick Laird at Gold Charts Are Us. And here you can see the depositories. I like to keep track of, as you guys know, we're looking at JPMorgan Chase. That's the red line. They're moving up. They have 150 million plus ounces. But look at Brinks. Brinks has got now over 50 million ounces. But there's significant amounts in Coins and Things, over 30 million ounces. Scotia Makata's got about 20 million ounces. So a lot of silver overall. And you notice what's interesting, which makes little sense, the correlation between the increases in silver in the JPMorgan vault and the Brinks vault coincide with a drop in price, a pretty steady drop. The top box shows the silver price going back to 2013, and you can just see it's going down, 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 and the accumulation has gone up. Unlike the gold stockpiles at the GLD, they kind of ebb and fall with the price, whereas it seems that the Comex silver vaults and the SLV just increase. The price goes down and more SLV shares get created, more silver flows into that, supposedly flows into the SLV and the other ETFs, and the Comex vaults continue to swell. So that we can say is possibly a reason that there is silver available. But again, countries generally don't like to plan on confiscating silver or anything within their boundaries, but obviously it's something they would and have done. But the main reason, I believe, is because the United States has a decent silver mining production. Now, Steve St. Angelo over at SRS Rocco had done a report on this, 3 or 4 years ago, and he was showing that the U.S. Doesn't mine as much silver as it needs to make silver eagles, which is true. you look at 2015, that number was probably about 34 million ounces. And we know that year that they minted 47 million American Silver Eagles. So the supply, the demand exceeded the supply of U.S. silver mining. However, given the fact that they've pushed down now on the American Silver Eagle production and sales, the current production at U.S. mines, like, what are some of those U.S. mines? There's one, can't think of it. There's one in Nevada, relatively famous, is the biggest mine in the U.S. There's a lot of silver mines out west. But the 32 million ounces last year that were mined, they are, that's sufficient. They only made 18 million American Silver Eagles last year. Now, in a pinch also, what they can do, if they thought that silver was necessary for national strategic interest, they can just halt production of American Silver Eagles. They'd rescind that law that says they have to make them and say, we're not going to make them. We're going to suspend the production of them, and we're going to use the 30 million ounces that we mine for our uses, if indeed they need that much silver. Also, they can nationalize the mines. The mines right now probably are not at peak production. Why? It's too expensive. So they cherry pick what they can. They mine what they can, but they don't go bonkers. But if there was a need, let's say there was some new military weapons the United States had to have, or there was some disease and they needed it to purify the water, whatever it was, there was a national need for silver, and 30 million ounces wasn't going to cut it. Well, the United States could probably ramp that production up. I don't know if it's double, but there are reserves. It's just that it would be expensive to get at it, but, if there was a national emergency, they'd get at it. And if there was a national emergency, they'd stop all sales of silver rounds, bars, and so on. And they may even ask, or probably not confiscate, but may even ask for people to sell their silver to the government. Now, they did that in 1934 when there was a coinage shortage. They asked people to turn in their silver so they could make coins out of it, because they had sold all the silver. They melted down the Silver Eagles in 1918 and shipped the silver to England to ship it to India because they had a coin shortage. Then the U.S. found itself with a coin shortage, and so they had to get coin. They didn't ask you to turn your coins in. That wouldn't make any sense. You turn in your worn out quarters and dimes so they can recast them into dimes, quarters, and half dollars. They were trying to get the scrap silver that people had, and they basically demanded it in 1934. I've done a video on that one. It's been viewed a lot. It's quite a good one. I think I had a cold during it. It's called When They Confiscated Silver or something like that, or the Silver Confiscation of 1934. So the government could do that again, but I think the reason it's not on the list is not because a lot of people felt offended. They're like, what? It's not valuable? Well, it is, and it is useful, and it is strategic. It's just that according to, at least what I think, there is sufficient silver mining production and reserves, and there's a lot of silver in the country. Remember, people don't collect cobalt. There's no other place to get cobalt than, I think, Sudan or something. But for silver, if they need it, they could call on the people. They do know that they sold 600 million plus American Silver Eagles. So they know there's 600 million ounces out there somewhere or something like that. They know there's a lot of junk silver out there. They know that people have silverware. So it's not that silver isn't available at a price or at the cost of executive order. They can get it. And the United States does have a decent silver mining production. And as we mentioned, not only all the collectible silver that's out there, Silver Shield, whatever you people have, that could be subject. I'm not saying that this is being planned. I'm just saying when they think about, can we get our hands on silver, I don't think they'd have a hard time getting their hands on silver. And I also think they wouldn't have a hard time getting their hands on enough silver that they'd have to go and ask you to turn in your silver round collection or your. But if they did, they would know. If that became necessary and they needed in excess of what's in the Comex vault, or what's in excess in the mining production, and what's in excess of what they can get out of the mines, then they go the next level and they take from individuals. But I don't think that they that's even probable, but I think they realize that they've got 30 to 40 million ounces they can count on, and the easiest way to make sure that that silver is available is basically to shut the Silver Eagle sales down, because that takes up the bulk of U.S. mined silver. All right, let's see if I got any other charts. There's one other chart I didn't want to show you because we looked at this before. This is interesting. You know, the net positions. Right now in silver, at the commitment traders over at the Comex, they're all short. It's interesting now. If you look, it might be hard to see, but you can see for the last 3 weeks, both the commercials and the non-commercials are all short. Net short. They're not every, but net short by 5 for the commercials, 17 for the non-commercials, and the non-reportable net minus 22. Now, that could mean a game-changing short squeeze. Yes, indeed. There would have to be a catalyst, because normally what happens is they roll off their positions, they sell off, and eventually they go long a bit. But they're all pretty much short now for a while, and at some point they're going to have to go long unless the price continues to fall. But we've seen a stubbornness at the $14 level. Now, one of the things I thought that maybe these silver piles maybe that JPMorgan Brinks have is that silver held in abeyance if they want to drive the price down lower. You guys all know what would happen. Most of you on this channel, if the price went to 10, you'd start buying physical silver. You figure that's a bargain. Well, if that happened, you'd start seeing shortages because there's probably not readily available, 20, 30, 40 million ounces in 3 months available in the form of American Silver Eagles. And that would tend to create a bit of a upward pressure on the price. Unless, however, that physical silver shortage can be easily and quickly ended by releasing or selling some of that silver in those vaults. So I view that silver less as people are stacking it so that they can get this big price rise. Because remember, if you believe that JPMorgan has been tasked by the United States to suppress the price of silver, and if they can make money in every other trade that they make, why would they be focused on silver? I don't even think that any of this stuff is true at all. But the point is, I actually think if they do have silver stacked away on the side for themselves, it's to pour into the market to continue their ability to manipulate the markets if the price, they want to drive it down low, and driving the price down low causes a surge in physical, which causes a shortage, which would then drive the price back up, and all their work would be to naught. Well, they can ease that physical shortage by dumping some of that silver back into the mint. I don't think that's what it is, but just something to think about. Look, if people can have their own theories, and I can make them up too. But I choose not to do that. I choose just to follow, cue a mom, and to trust the plan. Now let's see what you guys think. Cue my mom. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. And let's see what you guys are probably talking amongst yourselves. All right, let's see. Roger Henley, what are you talking about, Les? Bix Weir says silver is the most important metal in the world, and that's why JPMorgan are holding so much of it. Fact, period. Well, that's what's interesting is these theories, there's no proof. They're theories, and I don't even think they're rational, but whether they're rational or irrational, people talk about them as a fact. JPMorgan has X million ounces of silver. The only one you can point to that has any basis where you can point to a document or something is this one, the vault that we look at. We know that there's silver under the control of JPMorgan. That's 150 million ounces. How you get it? Silver Eagles, Canadian Maple Leafs skimming off the top, all that stuff. That's just speculation. It can make sense to you, it can make no sense to you, like it makes no sense to me. It doesn't matter. Whether it makes sense or doesn't make sense, that's not proof or not proof. There's no proof independent of whether it makes sense or doesn't make sense. So, but that's the point. People talk about it as if it's fact, and then you hear people, I am buying silver because JPMorgan is buying silver. They are stacking the shiny, so I am doing it too. That is all I need to know. Okay. All right, I just finished watching James Anderson View with Butler. I was wondering if you saw it, says Roaring Fork, and I say yes. He gave no evidence that JPMorgan holds any silver eagles, and he thinks that JPMorgan bought them when sales dropped, that they sold them. He gave no evidence that the other silver he says they have. Now, he's speculating, which is fine to do, and he says this. He doesn't say, I know. He says, I suspect, I surmise, this happens. The problem is, because he's a silver expert, people believe it as a fact. And I think James he kind of prefaced his remarks by saying he got involved with silver because he's been covering the Comex stuff for 30 years. And I say it's 100% speculation with nothing other than he thought retail sales were weak, right? And therefore JPMorgan must have bought eagles. Now, I don't understand how there's logic in that. I understand if you think retail sales are weak, okay, but the mint is reporting higher numbers. Well, then if you think that they're weak, but the numbers are higher, so then your brain says, well, then somebody else must have bought them, and therefore it's JPMorgan. Okay. Now, first of all, there's no evidence that retail sales are weak other than anecdotal, because many bullion dealers will tell you that during that time period, retail sales were strong. So maybe you already have a faulty assumption. But then assume retail sales were weak, but the U.S. Mint was showing strong sales. That doesn't therefore conclude that JPMorgan bought the extra ones that you can't account for. Also, why would the United States Mint run such a risk of reporting numbers? You could say, oh, they lie all the time. Sure, but that way, it just doesn't make much sense. Okay, so go listen to it again. Then Roaring Fork says, granted, there's no proof, but it does make sense, especially given the chart you showed yesterday. James Anderson had a good rebuttal. I agree either is possible, but it was your charts that got me thinking. Now, yesterday we saw, this is a very interesting point. I showed yesterday how the investment demand for silver went down starting in 2016, which a lot of that includes a drop in American silver eagles. Now, what he was saying was that you can see that we had the great increase in sales in American silver eagles, and since we think that retail sales were weak, that it must be JPMorgan that was buying, and then he attributes because the sales went down, it must be because JPMorgan stopped buying eagles. Yeah, if you create a situation where you're saying that it went up because they bought them without proof, and then it went down because they stopped buying without proof, I don't know how that works. But then if you look at that, here's another thing. If this chart you're looking at, how does that chart get filled? Because it looks like, according to the theory, that a lot of those eagles that were bought, I think it's 150 was the exact number. Last time I mentioned, somebody put in the comment section that Mr. Butler said 800 million ounces, and I said I couldn't. I said they bought 800 million silver eagles. Now he breaks it down to 150 silver eagles and maple leafs, and then there's two other components of it, SLV and something about the Comex skim, and then there's this 150 million ounces that you're looking at here. But I would think there's one way you could try to back out the numbers. You can say, well, if they bought 150 million silver eagles and they melted them down, that would account for all this in here. But that's not true, because this pile has doubled since they supposedly stopped buying. So that wouldn't make sense. But I just don't see how any of the math works. I just don't see why they would buy silver eagles, and I don't see any evidence presented other than a circumstantial hypothetical that he created and then concluded that JPMorgan was indeed a buyer of these eagles because the retail sales were weak during that period. I mean, you could then conclude, well, then it was Goldman Sachs or it was my cousin. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you say, well, of course, JPMorgan would be the logical one because they have the interest in it. But there's nothing to indicate that they did indeed do that. And remember, when you buy silver eagles, the U.S. Mint has to account for them. And not only that, they get $2 extra over the spot price of silver. So every silver eagle that you sell, they actually get. So if the price of silver is $14, they're selling silver eagles to authorized purchasers for $16, and JPMorgan is not an authorized purchaser. So they're buying them directly from the U.S. Mint, and then destroying their value, that $2 premium, by melting them into 1,000-ounce bars and slapping them into a vault. Just doesn't seem to be the best way to acquire silver, and it just doesn't seem to make sense, and the amounts aren't that great. All right. What else here? Makes no sense for JPMorgan. I was having this conversation with Roaring Fork earlier. I say it's all theory. There's zero proof, and it makes no sense for the U.S. Treasury to buy silver blanks. Remember, the U.S. Mint doesn't even make the silver rounds to slap the designs on the front and back, the eagle and the walking Lady Liberty. They buy those blanks from the Sunshine Minting Company and 2 other private vendors. So it's a pretty elaborate scheme to go and contract with private vendors to send you millions and tens of millions of extra blanks that you don't need because retail sales are weak, which I think they weren't. I think that the JM Bullion, goldsilver.com, some of the others are selling tremendous amounts of silver eagles during that time period. To then get them from private companies, have to pay them, then to stamp them, and then register them as sold to the public, and ship them out to JPMorgan, and then JPMorgan has to find the ability to then take all those silver eagles, melt them down into those 1,000-ounce good delivery bars. It just seems like a lot of work for no reason, and there's no evidence that they did it. All right. That's what made me go hum from your perspective, said Roaring Fork. And then I said, yes, and now they've been holding that silver for years. So remember, when they were buying these silver eagles, they were buying it at much higher prices than it is now. I thought JPMorgan was the genius company that never loses on a trade. Now, you could argue, well, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now, they're going to make a lot of money. Public companies don't think like that. They got to make money every quarter. And they're not looking to hide money and buy silver. If you think about it, they're going to buy a lot of silver at $20, $22, $19, $18, and hold on to it from 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, as the price drops, and then they just keep adding silver. Doesn't make much sense to me. And then Roaring Fork says, I'm leaning your way, but without proof, one way or another, will probably always keep somewhat of an open mind on JPMorgan allegations. Well, I mean, you can keep an open mind on anything. I can make a story up about Goldman Sachs, and I can create a narrative that says Goldman Sachs did it. JPMorgan killed Bambi. I mean, you can rationalize stuff that you can't prove, and then you're left with, well, you can't prove it's not true, so I want to believe it's true, so therefore it is true. All right. It's always hard disproving a negative, says Roaring Fork 78. He's absolutely right. And then, of course, Mint Mark, thank you very much for noticing the audio is gone. Roaring Fork says, issuing a Google community strike. That was Ned. Q a groan, says Bogus Freon. Roger Henley says, your Q deciphering is game-changing. Lewis back in 5 going to take more red pills to feel even more patriotic. Roaring Fork, I noticed you have a silver mug but no gold ones. What should we take away from that? Which ones are you looking at? The new... Hold on. I think... Oh, I see. No, you're looking at the silver travel mug. What I didn't show you was this beautiful gold-lined beer stein. So now you got gold, and gold is written in gold. I have mine in front of me right now. It is a beautiful mug. It's quite hefty, too. That is a great mug. I want to check out that. All these mugs are available either at the Smaulgld store or at the Smaulgld.com. Now, the classic and super classic coffee mugs are available directly from the website through PayPal, or you can send Bitcoin or Litecoin. And then I get that order and I ship it with a game-changing eraser and a personal note. All other items, the beer stein, the travel mug, the espresso mug, are only available through the manufacturer. And I've given you, I believe, those links. If I haven't, I will do it now, mate. And then you can make your order that way. Yeah, so Smaulgld is just basically, if you want the travel mug, you can also order from the Smaulgld site, because there's a link to that particular product on the homepage. So that's Smaulgld.com. Here is the beer mug. Give you that one. A Smaulgld beer mug is a great product. I sold a lot of those already. Not as many as the coffee mugs yet. But you see, a lot of people listen to Smaulgld in the morning and they want the coffee mug. And then other people, you know, they listen at night in a live stream and they need their adult beverage or whatever they're drinking. Now, this mug, the beer stein that you're looking at, that's 22 ounces. It's quite big. There's also a frosted mug that I don't have. Well, no, I can show you the frosted. The frosted mug, the image doesn't do it justice. That's a 16-ounce mug, but it is one of the best-looking mugs. I'll show it to you. That's available also if you go to the Smaulgld store. All right, let's see what else you guys are saying. That's it for the mug pumping tonight, but Smaulgld mugs are important. Smaulgld mugs can never go to zero. They are a hard asset, and they're stackable, and they're a good prepper item. And most of the people listening on here, I probably, if I were to do a poll, I'd say half the people probably have them if I got 62 people on here. I've sold more than that, but I'm sure the people listening, we probably have 30 mug holders if I were to take a poll. And there's the Smaulgld Patreon link. Okay, let's get into more comments. Lithium and cobalt for EV. Mystery versus Vistery. Silver will be more valuable than gold, but it will not be used monetarily. That's just something that's been repeated. You've heard it a lot on YouTube channels. There's no basis for that whatsoever. But I'm open to hearing from it. I think that's an example of hearing a lot of stuff on YouTube. Same channels. They repeat the same stories. They repeat the same things as fact. Gold-silver ratio unsustainable, 9-to-1, 1-to-1. Silver is rarer than gold. Silver is the most useful thing in our lives. I don't know. I think it's just, it's a lack of having anyone challenge their numbers or their narratives, and they just repeat the same stuff. Just like JPMorgan has 800 million ounces of gold. That's not a silver. That's not a fact. That is a supposition. That is not a fact, but is repeated as a fact. Okay, that's odd considering reports that as much as 40 pounds of silver is used in each Freedom rating Tomahawk missile. Add up, go ahead and do the math. I'm not going to do it for you. It's not that much silver. It could be 40 pounds. I'm not saying there's not a lot of silver. There's not millions and millions and tens of millions of Tomahawk missiles. All right. Elon Musk is going to change the silver market. Demand will be off the charts with his new Model X. Fact, period. That's right. See, that's the thing. People don't, Joel Thornton, you got to go through the numbers. When you say silver is so useful, it's used in all these things, and we went through this last night. How much silver is actually used in the production of Tomahawk missiles? I've done the ICB, intercontinental ballistic thing. It's de minimis amounts in the overall scheme of how much silver there is in the world. Yeah, it's a lot in each missile. It's like a few monster boxes, but so what? It's not like there's billions of missiles that they need to fill with silver. It's true about Musk having an impact on the silver market. Mars is basically an untapped silver resources. Yes, I don't think much of them mind. Actually, Musk is working on that because SpaceX is one of the mandates of SpaceX, a Elon Musk company, is to mine meteors and stuff out in space. Trace Young says, game changer. How do you know there's silver on Mars? Yeah, I don't know that. NASA, of course, they never lie about anything. You can totally trust them. Just look at the picture of Pluto and look at the picture of Pluto. Hey, by the way, Joe, you know what's interesting about Pluto? Wasn't the science settled that Pluto was a planet? Remember that whole argument? The science is settled. Now Pluto is, I don't know what they call it. It's a dog in a Disney cartoon. All right, let's see. Roaring rock. Well, Mars was made of the same type of rock that was circulating the sun. The beginning of the solar system, no proof, but I'm saying there's silver in the Martian soil is a safe entrance. And maybe there's gold there, too. Miser, loves silver, especially as a contrarian type endeavor. Pablo Pena, palladium reached its highest level. Unbelievable. Eric Schneider, I'm 50-50 invested gold to silver. Yeah, a lot of people went the other way. A lot of people went, and I think it's because of the silver channels. They all convinced everyone that silver was undervalued and the ratio had to come down. And one thing I can tell you, that silver, when you sell silver as a bullion dealer, you make a higher margin. I'm not saying that factored into their promotion of silver, but It's a lot easier to get people to buy silver also because it's cheaper. It's perceived as cheaper. For whatever reason, like the gold-silver ratio has gone from 50 to 80, right? 50 almost to 90. People would rather buy 50 times more of something, 60 times more of something, 70 times more of something, 80 times more of something. You could have 80 American Silver Eagles and one gold coin. Or another way of looking at it is 8 or 9 American Silver Eagles and a tiny little 10th ounce gold. People thought when they got 6 of those, why would I buy a little 1/10 ounce gold coin when I can get 6 Silver Eagles? Well, why? Because now you have to get 9 of them. But that's just, I think, a marketing ploy. And I think they made silver into a much bigger deal than it was. Silver historically has not been as treasured or as valued as gold. There was a lot of these stories. Greatest wealth transfer in the history of the world. Silver, if you look at the history of silver, spike and dive metal. I like silver. It's just that I think that historically it has never been on the same level as gold, either as a monetary metal, and it was in a sense a cheap, it's what you use for pocket change. That doesn't mean it should be worth 90 times less, but it doesn't mean it should be 1-to-1 or 9-to-1 where some of these people are trying to tell you. Eric Schneider likes the mugs. Well, thank you. Roaring Fork, you are extremely entertaining. Well, I'm glad you're enduring yourself. Roger Henley, wow, that's game-changing news about Mars. I might use one of Cliff Eye's UFOs and fly there with a pick and shovel. Yes, that's a good idea. Roaring Fork, all heavy elements are created in supernovas. No other way, so these elements are pretty much everywhere in space, says Roaring Fork. Roaring Fork, apparently, from his comments, you can tell somewhat about people's comments, how widely read and educated they are, and Roaring Fork seems to be that. The other day you mentioned Nero and the mark of the beast, and that I didn't get into. I'm not going to get into it, but again, that shows that he's aware of preterism and the different theories on the Book of Revelation. All right. The mugs are a good holiday list, says Miser, on the list, and they're stackable. They're great prepper items. Yes, indeed, they are, Miser. Roger Henley, no, you're incorrect. According to King James Bible, some of the name of God made everything. Well, King James Bible is the correct interpretation of the Bible. LOL, I hope you find some plutonium for fuel for the trip home. No, I saw a movie called Supernova. It must be true, says Joel Thornton. Or you saw it on the internet. You saw it on one of these channels. Roaring Fork is coming out with the Roaring Fork Bible. It fixes all the parts I have problems with. That's and again, another astute point. Many people have many problems with it. Some people like to accept the whole thing. Some people want to reject the whole thing. Other people like parts, dislike parts. And there are many theories in biblical studies for sure. But that's not what we discuss here. Mystery versus mystery. The comments are golden today. They're not silver. Eric Schneider is going to break down and order himself a mug. I look forward to receiving your order. Now, are you going to order you might be ordering that beer mug. See, at nighttime, it looks like people like to buy the beer mug. And I can't blame them. But remember, mornings are coming and you're going to need a coffee mug. The biggest seller so far is the Smaulgld Super Classic. And that one is the Super Classic mug. I'm actually bowled over by how good these things look. My least favorite, but second best seller, is the travel mug, and I have one of each. I don't have the espresso mug, but the design on the Super Classic mug to the left is just awesome, and the classic mug, the coffee mug, is much better looking in person because it's got that Smaulgld on both sides. But my favorite right now is the beer stein and the frosted mugs, but they're all cool, and they can never go to zero. Don't forget the mugs are means of self-defense. Stein's even more lethal. I'm holding this thing right now. If I were to take a swing with this, seriously, the other one you could do damage. This one you would probably be lethal. And it is beautifully designed. I like that. All right. I think Smaulgld sell colloidal silver by the truckload. Yes, colloidal silver. No one will ever get a cold again. Skyrocketing to the moon. Hit the like, everybody, says Joel Thornton. Actually, thank you very much. You know what I noticed? I don't have that many subscribers. I'm looking at all the other channels I've been at it longer than they have been. I'm good channels, but they got 14, 15, 18, 20, 30. Far more subscribers than I have. And I don't ask people to subscribe. I know a lot of people make that part of their pitch. My pitch is the mugs. I think you don't get anything, and I don't really get anything out of you subscribing to YouTube. But if it helps, it helps. But you definitely benefit when you have a Smaulgld mug. You are prepared. All right, Miser, I forgot. I will store the mug next to the AR-15. Yeah, because they're valuable. You got to keep your valuables secure. Heckler, that's the one, Pablo Pena. That's the U.S. silver miner that I forgot. Roger Henley, guys, make sure your Smaulgld mugs are insured. They are likely to be stolen due to their rarity. And if used in self-defense, you will need public liability insurance for the lawyers. Yes. Also check your state whether you can open carry these mugs. I take no responsibility and no liability if you are not allowed to own these mugs in your particular jurisdiction, or if you are going to own them, whether you have to have them registered or not. So please consult with your legal advisors, tax attorneys, and accountants. I love people that make fun of Bitcoin, and the Swiss just approved the world's first cryptocurrency ETF to be in effect next week, said Mystery versus Mystery. Interesting, Mystery versus Mystery. I did not know that. When you say cryptocurrency ETF, is it a crypto or is it Bitcoin? Which one is it? Yeah, here's the thing. I used to make fun of Bitcoin. I don't like it. I don't like the concept of it. But what really sold me on it, not like made me think, oh, I think it's the greatest thing, was the biggest criticisms against cryptocurrencies apply tenfold to all fiat currencies, i.e. they're not backed by anything. And then there's flaws in fiat currencies, like they're unlimited in the amount that they can issue. They're all trackable and traceable, and they can be recalled at any time or devalued at any time. You saw what happened in India. They just said, "Yep, you got cash in your pocket, it's not worth anything. You got to turn it in. If you don't turn it in, it's gone." And also, fiat currency requires you to use a fiat-approved bank, which they can go in and take your money out of that bank, and then you're done with it. Yes, so fiat cryptocurrencies, or I'm talking about cryptocurrencies, not ICOs, but like Bitcoin and Litecoin, yeah, you could say there's thin air. Yeah, okay, you got to do mining, and you got to spend a lot of electricity, and its security and all that. They're still nothing. You still just have a bunch of digits. But that's not the point. They have perceived value, and they're yours. The government can't take them from you. They can't dilute the value of them. So that's when I realized that Wall Street loves this kind of stuff. That's why they like carbon taxes. They like stuff that they don't have to buy assets that they have to pin down or foreclose on or kick people out of houses, or even have to worry about earnings ratios. They just pump the prices of these things up. I think that's coming. I think either of these things are going to zero, which would make sense since they're a valuable innovation, or Wall Street's going to pump them next year. It's just my guess. Backed by Swiss chocolate. Joel Thornton says, why should we mine any silver at all or any gold for that reason when we can just print money, buy it on the open market, and save our in-ground stockpiles for later, which is what we do with oil? Well, that's a good point. Roger Henley says you can store crude oil in a Smaulgld mug. Smaulgld Saudis need to buy mugs, not barrels. Or, says Joel, what we used to do with oil for the most part, except a little bit out of the private market. Right. The mugs are backed by coffee. Now that's backing. By the way, I am reviewing coffee. If you guys got any suggestions, I've gone through a few affiliates looking at the best coffee to offer. I'll probably offer a couple of brands, but I think it would be a good idea to add coffee that you can buy directly from the site. And then if I could sell, well, I don't think you're not allowed to sell alcohol, but I can sell coffee through the site, and I think that would be a useful thing to have. So if you've got any coffee makers, special coffee grinders or roasters that you want me to look at to put on the site, let me know. Roaring Fork, mystery versus mystery. That's exactly why I don't buy Bitcoin. Central banks will issue their own and then deem their cryptos to be counterfeit or something. Here's the problem when a central bank issues their own. If a central bank issues its own cryptocurrency, they're not really doing anything other than just changing the form of their current digital currency. The difference between a decentralized cryptocurrency is there is no issuer, and they can't change the amount of coins issued. When a central bank issues their own, Roaring Fork 78, all they're doing is just taking control of the blockchain. The problem with that is, if it's not decentralized and it's not properly secured, it will be hacked, and it'll be a tremendous problem. And the central banks have realized that maybe they don't want to do that. The other problem with doing that is it is centrally controlled. And if they get invaded by another country, Sweden referenced this. If Russia took them over, they take over the Riksbank, and then next thing you know, Sverige, bye-bye, and then Russia has all its money. All their money, and you couldn't run resistance because you wouldn't be able to finance it. So I used to think that, but the more you look into the differences, blockchain is nothing if it's just centralized. It's just making it a different ledger. It's the actual permissionless, decentralized features of Bitcoin or Litecoin or other cryptocurrencies or privacy coins that give them more value than a central bank, centrally issued cryptocurrency. It's clear you don't know how cryptocurrencies work. They can't shut it down. Okay. Anything electronic can be shut down. I didn't say it couldn't be shut down. I said they could make it illegal. Yes, that's true. They could make it illegal. They could make it very hard for you to get on the internet. If they're against you, they make sure that you don't get internet access. Or they make sure that you can't use the centralized exchange. Now, I know that mystery versus mystery, well, you can use decentralized exchanges, you can go peer-to-peer, lightning swap network, you can do all that kind of stuff. Yes, but it makes it much harder. So they can't make it impossible other than arresting you, throwing you in solitary confinement with no electricity, but it makes it a lot harder for you. So the government can crack down on it, and even if they can't stop you, they can arrest you and say, we think you have it. And even though they can't prove you have it, they can probably still throw you in jail. And you'd have to prove that you're innocent and you didn't have it. So if they wanted to be against it, they could. It's not like it's invincible. Maybe as a practical matter, they can't stop it. But there's a lot of things they can do to stop it if they so wanted to stop it. But I don't think they want to stop it. I think that the banks and the attorneys and the lawyers and the accountants and the Silicon Valley people, they want to make money off of it. And that's why they want the regulation. Yes, Roger says they can shut down the exchanges. You buy coffee, the merchant won't accept Bitcoin. That's right. They can make it difficult to transact. They can make it difficult for you to buy it. Your bank may not allow you to use your fiat account to buy the cryptocurrencies. Obviously, no credit cards. All right, let's see. Mystery versus mystery. Seriously, it can't. It's global. If it were right, we would have to return the horse and buggies. I remember the same fear-mongering about emails or online banking. You know what I would say, mystery versus mystery? All of the issues that you have about emails or online banking or cars versus horses, they generally are when people, humans, as a society, in collective, not individual, they will always pick the faster and more convenient mode of transportation, mode of transacting, whatever it is, mode of communication, even if they are aware of or it becomes evident that there are significant pitfalls or downsides to the faster way of doing things. So, horses were transportation, period. They were safer, they were probably less expensive, you had more control of the animal, you weren't going to get killed as easily as you were in a car driving, but yet people choose the car because it's faster, it's more convenient. It's the same thing with Bitcoin. Yeah, maybe you can't make a necklace out of the Bitcoin. Maybe it's not good looking, but you can send money quick, fast, and in a hurry a lot faster than you can shipping bars from one place to the other. And that's what people tend to gravitate towards. Yeah, China tried to make it illegal and didn't work out so well. And if anyone can make things illegal, it's China. They're very good at that. Roaring Fork says, it's not fear-mongering, he says, to, well, I'm sorry, we got a lot of questions here. It's not fear-mongering. Wow. I have to speed this up a bit here. Whoa. I gotta keep going back. It's not fear-mongering. Well, you guys got a lot of comments here. I'm not even close. But I know what I want to say. Okay, it's not fear-mongering to assume that governments will criminalize anything that is a threat to their power. That is correct. However, when governments know that it's harder and more expensive to shut something down, they try to co-opt it. And they try to make the bad actors illegal, but they try to bring as much as they can under the regulated part. And therefore, they make money. Their partners in crime, so to speak, the bankers and so on, they make money. And then with the extra money and the tax revenue and the registration fees that they make, they can fight the criminal element of it. So I think they're past trying to shut anything down. It's probably, and they are working, this is a fact. The SEC, the CFTC have already given the nod to a lot of crypto endeavors. If you go to sec.gov/ICO, they want people to bring their ICOs to them. They're not looking to shut it down. They're looking to regulate as much as they can and shut down as much of the bad stuff as they can. JPMorgan has used amount of silver. That is all I need to know. LOL. Who buys their Lambo with Bitcoin? They convert it to fiat first and use US dollars to buy that. Although there are some dealers, Roger, that do accept cryptocurrencies. I just don't know how much they sell with direct cryptocurrencies. If you own most of the material, it's cornering the market. Why the Hunts brothers were carefully watched. That is correct. Now, Roaring Fork says, I agree. Drugs are illegal, but people have them. It's just whether one's willing to break the law and the consequences of getting caught breaking the law. Now, one of the things I used to argue, to your point, is, but people want drugs. People want illegal stuff. As in The Godfather, he says, but these are harmless vices. Prostitution, drugs. But drugs is a dirty business. I remember when he said that. But the thing is, people are addicted to those things. I don't think many people would go out of their way or addicted to say, I got to use me some Bitcoin. The only reason that people would break the law to use Bitcoin is if they're already kicked out of the system. So that's different. I think people that are law-abiding will break the law to get involved in a dirty business like drugs, but they're not going to go out of their way. The average person who's law-abiding is going to say, I got to go out and get some Bitcoin because I don't care if it's illegal. I need to use Bitcoin. I think there's a difference there. Roger Henley, because confiscation and control hasn't happened yet, the ICE and MSFT are building the next exchange adoption pickup every day. That's the key, and I think no one's making a big deal out of that. This whole year, one of the things that people don't realize about Bitcoin, everyone, once they sign it off for dead, everyone thinks, well, the price went down, that's the end of it, there's going to be no more Bitcoin. What they don't realize is that money continues to pour into the sector. Innovation, people continue to work on projects related to Bitcoin, blockchain, and other alternative currencies and ICOs. I think that's what people miss, and they just figure out it's gone. That's the big, big difference, and that's what happened 2007, all of a sudden, 17, all of a sudden, wow, it's back. Well, it never went away. People were continuing to work on it, and then it went sky high. Now I think what's been happening the last couple of years, as you mentioned, Microsoft, New York Stock Exchange, Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, all these venture capitalists are pouring money into stable coins, into exchanges, into regulated this and that. I mean, platforms, and I think it's going to rear its head again relatively soon. It might not. It could end up being they could have poured money into a black hole. But the one thing about Wall Street is they don't collectively lose money. If they pour money into something, they make it happen. Roger, really need to do more research. All right, the day Bitcoin. Let's skip all this Bitcoin stuff here for now. Not because it's not interesting. I just want to cut this off at a reasonable time here. All right, let's see. What else do we got here? Bull Pony. Let's skip that. Okay, you guys are having a great time. That's good. I can't comment on all this. Let's see. What else? All right, you guys are arguing about silver. Crypto wallet is worthless when the grid goes down. Scammers. Bingo Boy, this is a crypto channel. No, and I think it's a mistake to focus. This is a very good point, Bingo Boy. The other night, I came to the conclusion that there's validity in all points of view, whether it's gold, silver, global warming, whatever it is. It's just that once, or Bitcoin, or whatever it is, but once you become enamored with a particular asset or a narrative, then you only look at things that way. So that's when you get into the central banks are buying gold. That is all I need to know. And cryptocurrency is going to zero. And so are all the cryptocurrencies. Then you just become mindless because you look at everything through the lens of whatever particular asset you're interested in. There's Bitcoiners, there's Bitcoin maximalists. The whole world revolves around Bitcoin. Everything else is worthless. There's the silver people who just think that silver is rarer than gold. The gold-silver ratio is unsustainable. And, you know, and for 6 years, the gold-silver ratio does nothing but go straight up. You can't convince them otherwise. Why? Because they've bought into the silver narrative. The gold people buy into the gold narrative. That's the one thing about this channel. Yeah, it's kind of a crypto channel, but it's not a crypto pump channel where I'm going to tell you that cryptos are going to go to the moon, or that gold is going to go to the moon, or silver is going to go to the moon, or QAnon is going to save you. That's the other thing. The QAnon people, it's the same thing. Their story doesn't work out. It's part of the plan. No, the plan was that this wasn't going to happen. Yeah, but that's part of the plan. Trust the plan. So whatever happens is part of the plan. Once you decide you're tied into a narrative, your brain goes to mush, and you're left as to a NPC. Trust the plan. Q knows everything. We are all patriots. Peace out. So yeah, I have no trouble talking about cryptos. I have no trouble talking about global warming if it comes up. No trouble talking about oil, whatever it is. But I am focused on precious metals, and I added cryptocurrencies. Real estate, too, I'll talk about. The same thing with real estate people. Real estate is the best investment. They are not making any more of it. Ha, 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 ha. They are not making any more of it. Get it? Yeah, I get it. So therefore, real estate is the best asset in the world. All right, let's see. I got to shut this down soon. All right, let's see. Cashless society in the description. Is this channel fiat paper dollar pumpers? Same point. The dollar is toilet paper. The dollar is going to collapse. No one wants the dollar. The BRICS are going to crush the dollar. China is going to crush the dollar. It is game over for the dollar. The dollar's days are numbered. And yet, day after day after day, these people are saying this, and everyone's transacting in dollars. People are getting rich in dollars. People are buying houses in dollars. People are paying their doctor's bills in dollars. People are buying cars in dollars. And yet, the dollar is toilet paper. Fiat currency is trash. I am buying more silver because this is unsustainable and the collapse is coming. Okay, maybe it is. But that doesn't negate the fact that the dollar is valuable, has been valuable, and is still valuable. That's not fiat dollar pumping. That's just fact and reality. And I'm able to say that because I don't have this narrative tucked into my craw that the only thing that's valuable is gold and silver. Gold is money, period. That is all I need to know. All right. Yes, you can play poker with crypto. You can. Fiat pumping game changers here. That's right. He doesn't understand. First of all, if there's anyone who's blinded by anything on this channel, it's me. It's mugs. Mugs can never go to zero. You can stack mugs. They have mugs at the offices of JPMorgan. Chinese and Russians are buying mugs hand over fist. That is all I need to know. You can put all of your preps in a mug. Mugs make good defense weapons. I like mugs. Mugsy. All right, let's see what else I got here. The grid goes down, bullets are more valuable than silver. Unless you have silver bullets. Oktoberfest will never be the same with that Smaulgld beer stein. Who is fiat pumping? I am. If I actually say, for example, if you think that dollars are worth it, send them all to me. I'll take them off your hands. When everybody goes for dollars, goes to the opposite direction, that's where the sheep go. Yes, that's the other one. Anyone who doesn't think like you is a sheeple because they're not woke, because they're not listening to alternative media and the game changers and what Q is telling us. Unbelievable. You get brainwashed listening to these channels. The sheeple. Don't you see, the alternative media is exactly the same structure as the regular media, the mainstream media. You got pumpers at the top, narrative pumpers at the top, spewing it out to you, repeating it incessantly, and then all the other channels on the alternative media repeating the exact same thing, and then you turn it, oh yeah, that's it, Rothschilds, whatever it is, and then you repeat it, and then you insist on it, and then anyone who disagrees with you is a sheeple, a shill, a disinformation agent, and you're not thinking anymore. You're going from channel to channel hearing the same thing and thinking that you know something special that nobody else knows because you heard it on a YouTube channel. Yes, I'm pumping fiat. All right, let's see. What else do we got here? All right. Yep, transactions in silver are private. And they're also not permanently stored anywhere, which is a very important thing about transactions in cash and in silver. People are calling each other uninformed, uneducated. All right. Well, that's the other thing here. Andrew says, if you're worried about being tracked, don't buy anything ever have Social Security number, driver, car. That's true. You see, when they say that people are never going to buy Bitcoin online, I mean, through normal exchanges because it can be tracked. It's like, okay. So traders today didn't trade trillions of dollars worth of Apple shares. They know exactly that they're being tracked. They don't care. The average person knows they're being tracked. I'm not saying this is a good thing. It's just that people trade trillions of dollars of stock every day, and it's all tracked. So you throw Bitcoin into it. They don't care. Put it on the list at the end of the year on my 1040, whatever you get from the trading companies to pay your bills. Right, and you can't pay your bills in silver. See, this is a horrible argument, this gold versus silver. They're two different things. Just like the idea that people try to make the reason that silver should be more expensive is it's a cheaper form of gold. No, it's not. It's an entirely different metal. It's even a different color. And silver is not a more superior way of transacting. You have to carry the coins around with you. That doesn't mean that silver isn't better for other things, but people just assume, well, no. Silver's better because I have it in my hand. Well, that's also a reason why it's less valuable as a currency, because it's easier to transmit bits over the internet. Oh, but they can close the internet down. Okay, but they haven't. Well, the dollar's going to collapse. Well, it hasn't. So if everything you look at is for the day when nothing works, yeah, okay, well, then maybe silver might work, but maybe it won't. Maybe if you haven't prepared properly and you only have silver, it's not going to do you any good anyway. So the idea, again, you start thinking myopically, like the answer to every question, and the question you need to ask always ends with the answer silver. Or gold, or Bitcoin, or whatever, global warming. We saw the other night. Global warming is going to make people sterile because of the heat. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. There's very hot climates around the equator, and there's very high population rates. I can pummel your little crypto wallet. Silver and solar game changer. All right, we're going to have to close it down here. I got too many comments. It looks very good looking comments. Bingo boy. Bingo boy. I like bingo. Mystery versus mystery. When the grid goes down. Yep, says Andrew. Sorry. Well, someone cussed and swear. When you swear, I see it, so it doesn't show up. So it gets held in review. All right. I think I'll have to close this down. Unless I see anything that jumps out. There's just too many comments tonight. Andrew, I'm not arguing against stacking silver. A rise in value is mystery versus mystery, but always the transition of wealth will be in crypto. People always move towards easy and convenient. That's what I said. Yep. Not me, says my beer mug arrived today. It rattles. No, I didn't open it, but I'm pissed. Now that I don't understand. It rattles. If you got it, did you get a broken one, or you're pissed meaning you're drunk because you used it? Let me know. They're returnable back to the company, I'm sure, if it broke. I got mine today, and it was in all that wrapping, and then it was in a box, and it was wrapped, and it wasn't broken. But open it up. Maybe it's not broken. Maybe it just sounds like that. All right. How many mugs can you buy with $15? That's a better question. Yes. DBC772011 self-defense. My crazy ex would throw coffee at me. Okay, all right. Let's see. Crypto, Aeropress. Andrew, yep, all about making Smaulgld some money. Yes. Aeropress. All right, I'll take a look at that. Yeah, well, I don't make any money off of this. I've made revenue, but I haven't made money. By the way, the first 60 mugs that I sold, I lost money selling them because I didn't buy enough of them to ship out. So I haven't made any money on the mugs yet. And through Patreon, you can see it. It's all up there public. I make $100 $20. I'm very grateful for it. It's not like I'm getting rich doing this with what do they call those fees? Hosting fees and so on Smaulgld.com and so on. But yes, thank you. It is about me making a little money because he deserves it, says Andrew. Thank you. But I'll look at Aeroespress. Nice coffee. Black Rifle coffee. I actually tasted it and I thought it was okay. I had another one. It was called military grade coffee. Because Black Rifle coffee, it comes ground, but military grade coffee does it in hold me, and I prefer that. They're not in an affiliate program. I was thinking of contacting him because I did like his coffee, and they have an organic one, and it is reasonably priced. But I'll come up with a couple of coffee. There's also Kona coffee, which is Hawaiian. It's a little more pricey, though. All right. I think I'm going to... holding your private keys is the same as holding physical silver. Somewhat. It's akin to... but you can forget your private keys. I suppose you can forget where your silver is, but it's a little different. Corvus Coffee. I'll write that one down. Corvus and Aeropress. All right. You get what you pay for, says Roaring Fork. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me tonight. And tomorrow night, I have another good topic. Tomorrow night, we're going to look at... it's another silver topic. I forgot what it was. Let me see. Pull up the... prepared in advance. And it is tomorrow night. A silver bubble. That's tomorrow night's topic. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you tomorrow night.